Afternoon to everyone here. I'm Johary, Mustapha from Forest Interactive Malaysia. Yeah, I'll just make this a casual talk. I've got some questions predefined. Won't make it too difficult for any of you. Okay, just an introduction to the panel. We have Martin Ha, co-founder and business development of SohaGame. Yeah. Justin Kim, CEO of Redbana. Paul Leishman, president of Coda Payments, and Jasni Zain, head and strategy of ecosystem of MDEC. So I'll just give you 1 or 2 minutes of opening by each of you just to introduce yourself, short summary of your organization, your core services, where you are geographically in Southeast Asia, and yeah, how long you've been in the industry for. Martin, probably you want to start.
Hello everyone. I'm Martin and I'm co-founder and business director of SohaGame. We are a mobile game publisher and we focus in Vietnam and Southeast Asia market. At the moment, we can say that SohaGame is a top 1 mobile game publisher in Vietnam. We dominate about 25% of the market share based on number of products in 2013, 14, and 15. So at the moment, we own 7 of the top 10 games that have the most open server in Vietnam right now. Yes, and I'm in this business for about more than 7 years. Yeah, that's everything I can tell about me.
Hello guys, my name is Justin Kim from Redbana. Redbana is a developer and publisher for global market, including US, Europe, and Southeast Asia market. Redbana currently publishing 3 PC platform games, 1 dance simulation called Audition, maybe people around here know about it, and another hardcore RPG games called Granado Espada and Eka. And recently we just launched new mobile game called Arcane Dragons. And luckily we got featured on an app stores in US market. And right now it's I think it's top 5 for the RPG categories in app stores. Unlike other game companies, Redbana has some unique company structure, which is we have 2 different offices, one in Orange County in California, and another one in Manila, Philippines. US team has a business intelligence team who analyze all the game metrics, and also marketing team who work closely with Facebook, Google, and Bungle's all marketing channels. And Manila office, we do have in-house development team, and also we have a game operation team who cover 24 hours for customer service and community management. So the reason why we have 2 different offices that work together, because first, we can reduce operation cost, and second, we can operate the game for 24 hours for global market. Yeah. Okay. And now I'm very excited to be here to talk about Southeast Asia market, but also it'll be good to have a chance to talk about what's the good benefit to make a game in Southeast Asia, like especially for Philippines.
All right.
That's it.
Paul, how about you?
Great. Hi everybody, my name is Paul. I am the president of Coda Payments. Coda is an alternative payments platform. We basically help digital content providers collect payment in Southeast Asia. The markets that we cover are Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, Taiwan, and as of today, Myanmar. The reason we exist is basically to help game publishers and live streaming platforms connect to the payment channels in these markets that are very popular locally. The company has been around for about 5 years. We work with many big Chinese companies. Baidu, UC Web, YY, Kunlun, Yifan, Garena, most of the top grossing publishers in Southeast Asia.
Jasni?
Right, we'll share this one. Hi, good evening. My name is Jasni and I'm from the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation. So we're basically an offshoot of the government vehicle in Malaysia. We look at 3 major things that we do for the Malaysian digital economy. That's attracting investments to come to Malaysia. We also look at building up our local industry, and we also the third thing, which is probably the most relevant for today's talk with you guys, will be about building up the ecosystem within Malaysia and by extension for Southeast Asia. So MDEC does a couple of things around the digital economy, and for this talk for today will be around the subject of games.
Thank you for the introduction. So as you know, Southeast Asia, we have 11 countries, and everybody keeps talking about the top 6, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Philippines. So Martin, tell me a bit about the Vietnam market. I mean, I look at the news reports, and when I actually go to Vietnam, many people are saying that, hey, those reports are not updated. It's exploded ever since. Is this true? How explosive is the Vietnam market? And has SohaGame been experiencing this sharp increase in growth for revenue in Vietnam?
Actually, I attend here to many speeches from this morning until now. I can see so many people here in China. They are talking about Vietnam. It's a very promising market.
Yeah.
Yes, Vietnam is booming very quick in recently 3 years. Last year, the number of the revenue come from Vietnam from white game only is $215 million US.
Wow.
And but it's I think the trend is going slow down because like we only grow about 18% compared to 51% in 2015. So the market, I think, is slowing down a bit, but it's still promising. And when we're talking about the number of the game, because like everyone here in this conference, we are talking about Vietnam. So the game published in Vietnam in last year increasing so fast. Can you imagine that more than 216 games, published in Vietnam in last year?
Wow.
Like I can say, like every 3 days, there are 2 new games published in Vietnam. So the market is going more and more competitive.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. Justin, I understand you're a Korean, with a game studio in the Philippines, right? Why Philippines? I understand a lot of them go there because of cost factors, as well as supply of the game developers. But, has publishing in Philippines really worked out for you, based on you being there, or is it just a cost factor that you're looking at using Philippines just to publish in the other markets? Yeah.
Sure. Actually, I have been in the Philippines for 5 years so far to manage game development studios. What I found is the most difficult part to manage and to produce the game is communication. So I tried to establish the game studio in Vietnam or Thailand before, but the biggest problem was communication, language barriers.
Yeah.
But in Philippines, for language barrier, they speak English and Tagalog, so it's both at the same time. So there's no language barriers.
Yeah.
And secondly, the salary-wise, actually the Filipinos programmer or designer, their salaries is 6 or 7 times lower than to find out in China or Europe or
Wow.
US.
That's really...
So not only also cost efficiently, but also language-wise, communication-wise, I found huge potential to make a game in Philippines right now.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah. I never knew that it was really cost-effective there in the Philippines. Paul, your company seems to be growing very well in Southeast Asia. What do you attribute this to? I mean, I'm from Asia, but I see a lot of alternatives to credit card, right? Has this been a success factor for you, like operating outside of the credit card space?
Yeah, definitely. I think to answer the first part of the question, the thing that I attribute the growth to fundamentally is the country that we're all currently in at the moment. Most of our partners are Chinese companies.
Wow.
And we've been very, very pleased to see the focus from big professional Chinese companies that have high quality content and a budget to promote the content in Southeast Asia coming to the region. So the thing that we've seen change really in the last couple of years, especially thinking about a market like Indonesia, is the introduction of big professional companies launching good content. The way in which I think we have contributed to the growth in the region is by solving the biggest problem that has existed for a long time, which is how do you get the users that you've acquired to generate any revenue for you. Alternative payments in Southeast Asia is basically a must. It's really, really tough to make the business case make sense unless you use alternative payments. Yeah. Most of the partners that we work with say that the revenue from Coda is at least more than half, or typically closer to like 70–80% of the total revenue generated. Yeah. So basically the combination of good content, a budget, and local payment channels has kind of been the winning combination in Southeast Asia in the last couple of years.
Wow, interesting, fine. Okay, Jasni, I've seen, like you said, MDEC is the government agency in Malaysia. So I've seen you guys being very active in Southeast Asia. I mean, you recently published a booklet outlining the statistics on games in this region. I mean, other than Newzoo, that's one of the other source of information that I can actually find on Southeast Asia. I mean, you have first contact with all these interviews and surveys that you do across Southeast Asia. I mean, based on these stats that you have in this booklet, do you see real growth here in this region?
Definitely. And that maybe is a nice continuation to answering the question above, right? Is the sky the limit? What we've done in MDEC was to actually try and cooperate on a association level, because there is a certain amount of thought process that Southeast Asia is a block, and I'm sure all the gentlemen here will agree it's not a block. It's a group of countries, very high potential for growth, double digits. It's one of the fastest growing in the world. But approaching it like it's going to be a single region, that's probably the wrong approach, as they are all individual countries. The way MDEC has looked at this process in developing our own game industry, our own local game industry, is to say that we are not of a level ready to scale on our own, and cooperation is required. And hence what Joe was saying, we actually embarked on 2 reports in 2015 and 2016 to try and find the common ground between all our big six countries of Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines. And between all 6 countries, there are certain commonalities that work and certain things that we found that didn't quite work. Now, payments is a big one. A big one, apart from Singapore, every other country has its own hurdles in trying to achieve a sustainable payment mechanism. But more so than that, we found was an issue with regards to a long-term goal, which is something probably not for an industry, but for governments to think about, for pipelining talent. And that's another commonality that we found. So those 2 big issues was one, and maybe if I can squeeze in a third, would be one about associations and how they play a role. Now, I believe in China, in Beijing, and of course in the major cities that actually promote games, the industry associations are built and strong. Now, in Southeast Asia, it's a mixed bag. Philippines has one of the strongest associations that we know of, GDAP, and it pays to know the members of that association. In Indonesia, they have the Asosiasi Game Indonesia, which is their association as well, among others. And that is a mixed bag, again, between countries. So approaching Southeast Asia means knowing 6 countries rather than 1 block. It's probably the summary of that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll move on to the next subject. Let's talk about direct courier billing and third-party payments. Yeah, Paul, I can see you having a lot of things to speak on your mind on that. But how has this been affecting, revenues especially? I'll start with you, Martin. Like in Vietnam, I don't think a lot of people own credit cards, right? So, has third-party billing actually helped you guys out? I mean, has that surpassed revenues from the 2 stores, or is it the same or less? Yeah, how has it gone for you guys?
Yeah, I have to say, because actually we have less than 3% of our total revenue come from credit card. So I think it's a very big problem for all the publishers in Southeast Asia, not only in Vietnam. When we are doing with official store like Google and also with Apple. For us, because like we have to, we have no choice but have to provide the third-party payment in Vietnam. But also you can see that the payment fee for third-party payment in Vietnam is pretty high. It can be around 16% at least. It's up to about 55%.
Wow.
So it's incredible high. So for us, because we are publishers, so we now, at the moment, we're using some policy to increase the people to charge them to pay the money by credit card. Like for example, if you pay this money by credit card, I will add to you 6% value to the virtual money inside our game. So that's how we're doing in recently 3 years to help or educate the gamer to switch from the very traditional payment way to the new way. So it also to help us to reduce the number of the revenue come from the traditional third-party payment. And also, because like sooner or less we will face a very big problem with official store like Google and Apple if we keep using the third-party payment. So I think that the only way is that if we want to survive in a long way in this market, we have to do it.
Okay, so I think there is a lot of similarity in Southeast Asia. When you look at outside of the App Store, like I understand in China, you know, Google is not allowed, so you have a lot of third-party stores. And how would this be similar to how it is in Southeast Asia? So Justin, you know, you're in Philippines. I just saw Globe launching their own app store with Zerpass, you know. Do you think it's too late, or do you feel this will gain traction, having another app store in the market? Or is this just a hype or trend that the telco is experimenting? You know, I've seen a similar model in Singapore 4 years back, and called WePlay, and it failed miserably. So do you think this model will work in Philippines?
Like Vietnam, you said that only 3% of the population have a credit card holder. Same as in Philippines, only 2.5% of the population has credit card. Other like 80% people, they using prepaid card or like a scratch card to pay the game. So now we are having big challenging how we're gonna make people could use to pay the game these days. And as you said that the third-party stores will be good help to increase its revenue in Southeast Asia market. It's not only Philippine market, also other Southeast Asia market as well. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, so Paul, I think you will have a lot of knowledge on implementing these third-party system. I mean, I'm sure you've been working with a lot of app developers or game developers, trying to get them connected to something other than Google Pay or Apple Pay in Southeast Asia. How has that been for you? I mean, you know, convincing people that there's actually more than just the two prominent stores. You know, has that been easy for you to work with these people to get them connected and to say that, hey, we know we have a lot more alternative payment in Southeast Asia, not just the two app stores? Yeah, how's that experience been for you?
I think it's been a real journey. I would say 3 years ago, it was very much a situation where we were trying to tell people how important third-party payments is. Today, basically, the job is much easier. If a publisher is coming to Southeast Asia, they will use third-party payments, probably 80% of the time. I think you can't make the business case work without it. Maybe to actually build just a little bit on the answer that Martin gave a couple of minutes ago. When we talk about third-party payments or alternative payments, there's a few different kinds. So carrier billing is probably the most famous, and in most markets, it's the best way to collect small amounts of money from huge amounts of people. There are also scratch cards, like was also mentioned. I think this is especially popular in Vietnam, very popular in Thailand, some other markets. Typically a bit more expensive, depending on the market, or actually a little bit less expensive than carrier billing, but also very well understood. The thing that we're seeing a lot of growth in these days is bank transfer and cash payment at convenience store. And these are, conveniently, the lowest cost ways of collecting money from big spenders. So the fastest growing payment channel for us in most of our markets is bank transfers. This is the most effective way of collecting big amounts of money from whales. And that goes a long way towards improving the economics and getting your biggest spenders using the lowest cost payment channels.
Okay.
I think most people implement alternative payments simply because they have to. If you just use App Store billing, the business case doesn't add up.
Okay. I've got a question again, Paul. Looking at what Martin mentioned just now, dealing with Google especially, yeah. You put your app on the App Store, and then and they say that, hey, yeah, you can do mostly everything on your game or app, and then there have been cases where when your app really gains traction and some crossing, and suddenly they notice there's a third-party payment there, and they say, hey, we're not going to have that app in our store. You better remove those third-party payments. Do you recommend that app developers also look at other alternatives, like having a different version for a different app store? Yeah.
So we have a document that's completely translated into Chinese that we send to partners that ask this question, because they inevitably and rightfully do ask this question.
Yeah.
The approaches that we recommend are a couple. The first one is to implement third-party payments on a website that's linked to an APK.
Okay.
So in that way, you're collecting payment outside of the app. So it's not governed by the policies that would govern the way that you collect payment in-app in an APK that you distribute through Google Play or iOS.
Yeah.
The second approach that we've seen a lot of success with is simply distributing an APK on a website. If you have channels through which you can encourage customers to download that APK in which the third-party payments has been implemented, you can do whatever you want in that version. Sometimes it gets complicated, especially if it's tough for you to make multiple APKs, but that's usually a good option. And then the third thing, of course, is using just an alternative application store. There's a whole bunch of popular ones in Vietnam, increasingly some in other markets. UC Web's 9apps application store is one of our partners in Indonesia. And then again, that's a distribution platform where you can choose to implement payments however you want.
Okay, all right, cool. Okay, on to Jasni. I'll skew the question a bit, coming from a government agency. Yeah. So you seem bent on making Malaysia the hub for Southeast Asia in terms of gaming. And, you're the envy of many other government agencies from other countries. I understand that Malaysian government is one of the most supportive one, especially when it comes to funding the ecosystem, right? I go to other countries and they say, hey, how could you get budgets from our MPs to actually fund the ecosystem? We don't get that here. So, and, has this actually helped you to make it easier for foreign companies to set up in Malaysia? I mean, that's one of the things that you are looking at here. And then there is also talk, I don't know if it's myth, there is a 5 + 5 years of tax incentive if you do business in Malaysia. Is that real at all? Perhaps you could share with us firsthand from your experience on what this is all about.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So funding is a dangerous word to use nowadays. So we'll just go with we help and assist. MDEC has long been in operation, so it's like been in 20 years now, since the days of when it was okay to say the words multimedia, because that was the original name of MDEC. But we've gone through a long journey, and like I said earlier, the reason that we are reaching out as Southeast Asia for not just the creative industry or for games is because it's a realization that we all have to move in concert with other governments as well. And a lot of that is behind the scenes work and things that we do to try and influence ASEAN and the other policies that go behind the scenes. But for what is obvious to the industry would be what the second part of your question is. So on the most direct incentive for companies coming to Malaysia to set up in Malaysia, we do provide a tax holiday, a 5-year tax holiday, and it can be renewed for another 5. And the process is relatively straightforward. It covers a wide range of technology industries, including the game sector. But to backtrack on funding, right? So has it been worth it? I think there was somewhere in there you mentioned that.
Yeah, there's always the interesting question, funding.
So yeah, we get asked that all the time. Because when we talk to the Ministry of Finance, when we talk to our economic planning unit, when we talk to our stakeholders in the government of Malaysia, as they are funding us money to try and attract companies to come to Malaysia, to try and incentivize technology to start up or to relocate to Malaysia, the question has always been a return. Has that been worthwhile? And the short answer would be, obviously, it's a yes. And it's not directly a monetary answer. It's an economic answer. It's a job creation prospect, which has a computation of a gross national income that we're looking at, that we look at the strength of IP and what IP can mean for our technology companies based in Malaysia. So that long process is usually our answer back to say, is it worth it? Yes. 12 years ago, there was hardly a creative sector to speak of in Malaysia. Fast forward now, we are a 7 billion ringgit industry, or about, I'm not sure what the conversion rate is now, 7 billion ringgit is what I got. And it's growing for exports as well. So has it been worth it? Then the short answer is yes. And will we keep doing this for the foreseeable future?
Wow, so you're saying that you're inviting foreign companies to come to Malaysia, set up shop, a game studio there, and then offer them tax incentive, up to 100% for 5 + 5 years. That's a huge risk. I've not seen any country do that. You sure it's been worth it? Yeah. Okay. I'll just give a statement on.
Can I say something? Actually, it's so amazing because Malaysia and Indonesia, they're very lucky because their government support them, the game developers. But in Philippines, we are struggling to get the support from Filipino government. So what we're doing right now is we have a private association called GDAP, which is Redbana is one of board member. So each game company has allied together to make so we do is a market research by our own budget without any support from governments. So. Hopefully, Malaysia and Indonesia people can help us to make a more bigger ally to make the better market information together.
Okay.
Sorry, Joe. Just to add on one more bit, because Indonesia has followed on Malaysia's footsteps. Malaysia has followed on Singapore's footsteps, and Singapore actually followed on what Korea did. Now, it's a great learning experience. It's not just companies that learn from each other. Governments learn from each other too. And I think it's nice to share that with the kind of activities that we're doing at industry level, as we talk to the industry associations in Indonesia, they're beginning to campaign what essentially is the Creative Economy Agency, the BICRAF, and that has helped form that idea or the impetus or momentum to start that in Indonesia. Now, maybe Philippines will be seeing that and seeing the success of that, and that might be a trigger effect. It's a very slow process. It's a 20-year journey, but it's worth it because we need to start somewhere, and that's where, at least from my perspective, therein lies the final benefit, right?
Yes, we share the same problem with Justin here. Actually, in Vietnam, we don't have any support from the Vietnamese government, but also in Vietnam, game is considering as a very sensitive business in Vietnam. And for example, for own game company in Vietnam, it requires so many publishing license to publish one game. For example, if you want to publish one game in Vietnam, it requires you to have at least 2 publishing license to publish one game, and each license took you at least 6 months.
Wow.
Okay, so you can see. But at the moment, we have one magazine, game magazine, looking for us right now. So we can collect all the data from the market. So we know exactly how the gamer behavior react to each title that we publish in the market. So we're very willing to share it with all of you if you want to know more about the gamer behavior. I think that maybe it's a little bit typical for Vietnamese gamer, but I think in many ways, like the casual and hardcore gamer, I think it's may suit to all Indonesian and Philippine gamer and Southeast Asia also. That maybe help you a lot when you're making the game here.
Yeah. Sorry, Martin, I've heard you actually require a license to publish a game in Vietnam. Is that true?
Yes. If you want to publish game in Vietnam, it requires you two kind of license.
Yeah.
The first license, you have to apply for the whole company.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get.
Yes, I heard so much.
And the second license, you have to apply for each title you publish in the market. And this license, you require two kind of documents. The first one is a content document, and the second one is a technical document.
Wow.
Okay, trust me, you don't want to make it.
Wow, so that's not as easy as one might seem. So I guess if you want to enter Vietnam, you got to talk to people like Martin here, right? Yeah. So,
yes, if you want to know all about the level stuff there, so feel free to talk to me or email me.
Okay, I'm going to give you a statement about Southeast Asia. Yeah, probably I'll ask you to comment a bit on that. So the population of Southeast Asia is about what, 650 million and growing. Yeah, Jasni, is that right? Right, from 11 countries, with the addition of Timor-Leste as the 11th country. And mobile phone penetration has gone up to about 110% on average. So what, 700 over million mobile phone users on 650 million population. And when we look at the smartphone users, right, we're talking about what, close to 50% smartphone penetration in Southeast Asia. Of course, you got like what, 85% in Singapore, but quite a bit lower down in Philippines and in Indonesia, right? So on average, about 50%. So we're talking about an extra at least 400 million more new smartphone users coming into the market, probably within the next 2 or 3 years, or probably within the next 1 year. So like, for Martin, could this be new potential revenues for you, this new influx of mobile smartphone users? Or for you, Justin, does this mean more R&D activities for you in Philippines? Or for you, Ben, sorry, for Paul, is there more alternative channels to look at? I mean, I've seen some of the slides earlier on. There was so many payment channels in Southeast Asia, I just couldn't understand, yeah? And then, and for you, Jasni, would that mean there will be a lot more investments, especially from China, coming your way? So, yeah, Martin, do you want to comment on that?
Oh, yes, I can see like smartphone open to the whole new game market, so we haven't ever seen it before. For example, like 5 years ago, we only know about web game and the PC games that only happen on the PC. And only, I can say, only hardcore gamer plays game. But now we can see the totally new behavior. Like most of everyone is switching to the smartphone. Now we are serving someone who is never have been to gamer before.
Yeah.
Like even your wife, your children, and anyone who only thinks something game is something fun is not for me. But now they is playing game, and I can see in the market right now. You will never see that on our platform, more than 40% of our gamer, of our user, are female.
Wow.
So they are playing some dancing games, some like puzzle game, and yeah, and they when they do the survey on them, most of them talk to me like, this is the first game that I play, and also the first game I spend money on it. Like about 2 years ago, they blamed their husband and their boyfriend that, hey, why you are so stupid? Why you spend money on something very virtual like games?
Yeah.
But now they're the one who
changed?
spend inside the game, and they spend a lot.
Okay.
So now I think we have to change our mind and think very carefully how to serve someone who's never be the gamer before.
Oh.
But now they are gamer and they are our customer.
How about you, Justin? Is that more R&D activities coming your way?
Actually, right now, 35 million devices the Filipino people have smartphone right now,
Yeah.
which is only 30% of total population.
Wow, there's so much
So
prospect.
there is a huge potential
Yeah.
to grow up in the future.
Yeah.
So as I said before, and the Filipino gamers, they're very avid gamers. They love the game and they like RPG genre and FPS and puzzle game genre. They like all kinds of genres of game right now. So once they have way to pay and they have some comfortable payment method, definitely there's huge potential in Philippines right now. That's what I thought.
Okay. And Paul, do you see a lot more payment channels coming your way? I mean, you seem to be streamlining all of them into one platform. You know, that one country you might have 6, 7 banks for you to integrate, and now with the influx of another 400 million mobile phone users, how has that been a challenge for you just to integrate everyone?
I mean, one of our jobs is to help make sure we guide game publishers towards the payment channels that are effective in each local market. So we don't just add new payment channels because they come along. We only add the ones that work, and we help the game publishers understand which ones those are. I think in terms of your first question about the smartphone penetration increase, it's obviously fascinating and very good news in all the markets where we work: Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia. To say a few words about the most interesting and intriguing market that I've seen in the last 10 years, Myanmar.
Wow.
Until about a year and a half, 2 years ago, you couldn't get a SIM card in Myanmar. It was basically a market where SIM cards were like $1,000, something extremely expensive. All of a sudden, very professional telcos were given licenses and have launched. Mobile penetration is, the government statistics say that it's at 100%. It's very, very high.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
The most interesting thing is that we all know what a leapfrog market is. It's a country where, they never bothered to really get landlines, and they just switched to getting mobile phones. And in most cases, they switched to getting feature phones that you could use to make calls and place SMSs. Myanmar, in my experience, is the first kind of double leapfrog market.
Yeah.
They've not only skipped landlines, they've skipped feature phones. Basically, if you have a phone in Myanmar today, it's an Android smartphone.
Yeah.
Google Play does not exist in Myanmar, so it's basically carte blanche for developers to work on preloads, use local payment channels, and address this market that wants to consume content and wants to spend as of today.
So, yeah, I can't just believe the statement that people have been saying. Myanmar has almost 100% smartphone penetration. That is one of could be the highest one in the world, coming from a country like Myanmar. Yeah, that's quite an interesting statistic. So, Jasni, I mean, with all these statistics growing up, influx of mobile phone users, do you see a lot of investments coming in, like especially from China?
Well, we definitely hope so. What we see is that aside from MENA, which was a couple of panels ago, which show the demographics being slightly younger than Southeast Asia, but we are among the youngest in the world. So the potential for growth is tremendous. Now, on the investment side, yes, we do hope and attract and would like to see companies from here, from China, to come to our region, not just Malaysia. I'm paid to say to come to Malaysia, but come to Southeast Asia, because it's a region that is diverse, it is fast growing, and it has its challenges, for sure, but it's worth your while to come down to the region. There are a lot of niche areas that you will find yourself surprised that you would fit in very well. An example would be in Malaysia, we actually consume a fair amount of Chinese content, more so than the region. In Indonesia, you'll find specific areas that you'll find an affinity for games that would resonate with the local gamers there. The upshot of all this is that is the increase and the projection for smartphone penetration. Is it going to be a good thing? Yes, it is. Yeah. It's going to be a good thing. Yeah. But we welcome investments to come in, and we welcome for ourselves as governments within the region to get ready for it, and to get that ecosystem part ready for that.
Okay. I'm going to pose the China question here. I'm going to open it up to the panel. So especially for you guys down here in the audience. We have such a high population of Chinese people in Southeast Asia. I mean, look at Malaysia, almost 30% of the population are Chinese, right? And of course that promotes tourism, but what's most important is when I look at the App Store, I mean, I did a presentation in Manila, and we did a survey, and 6 to 7 out of the top 20 grossing, not top downloads, yeah, top grossing games in Southeast Asia, I'm saying almost every country in Southeast Asia, they're Chinese. They're in Chinese language. They're not even translated to English. And you see that as the top 20 grossing. So do you think, the panel, do you think China game developers or game publishers, some of them here in this audience, could benefit further from the Southeast Asian market? I mean, the statistic is like, what, 1/3 of the top 20 grossing. Based on your experience, do you see a lot of potential in Southeast Asia? Yeah, any of you?
For us, I can say definitely. When we started this company 5 years ago, I didn't know at that time that this would be the reason our company's growth has been as strong as it has been lately. Most new hires in our company speak Chinese across the operations, customer support, technical integration support, marketing, business development, finance. Basically, the whole organization is evolving to be one that supports Chinese companies entering Southeast Asia. So this is absolutely the trend that we are riding.
Okay. Martin, I had a lot of Chinese influence there in Vietnam. A lot of Chinese game studios or working out partnerships with Vietnam companies. I mean, is that true for now?
Yes, because Vietnam is the same country with the China. So most of the game that on the top grossing of Vietnam right now come from China. But also I can see that there are very big difference between the billion market and thus we have only about 80 million people. So the number is totally different. So if you bring on the top game from China and hope it will be successful in Vietnam, I think it's another story. Another story to operation, a billion market to a million market is totally different. And also in last year, I can see, there are more than 216 games published in Vietnam, but about 35% of the game die in just 1 year, in the first year they published in Vietnam. So the market is very similar to China, but also very different in the taste of the gamer.
Okay, I'm trying to bust this myth here that, when I look at the statistics from App Annie and Priority Data, it says that only 3 to 6% of the total world or global revenue comes from Southeast Asia. Is that true? Because I think that's only from taken from the iOS and Google Store. I mean, there's third-party stores, there's third-party payments. Do you think there's any truth there? I mean, those statistics doesn't include third-party payments. So, is there more potential in terms of total revenues coming from just Southeast Asia? Paul, have you seen any of that?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're just looking at the revenue figure from App Annie in most markets in Southeast Asia, maybe except for Singapore, you're looking at a fraction of the picture. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. And I heard about gambling or casino-based genre games in Vietnam and in Philippines. There's been, I think I heard some of the talk that it takes 20 to 40% of total revenue as a whole. Martin, is there some truth to that?
Yes, I'm planning to say, yes, I can say that half of the revenue come from Vietnam come from gambling game.
Wow.
Like I can say there are about more than 200 million USD come from Vietnam last year.
Wow.
I can say more than 100 million come from gambling game.
Wow. One of the favorite questions that I always get asked when we talk about Southeast Asia, the first question that these game studios or publishers ask will always be, what sort of game sells in Southeast Asia, right? And I've heard so much of the success of RPG games. Everyone's looking for RPG games. Is there a truth to that, or is casual games still acceptable in Southeast Asia, or like I've heard of the earlier panel looking out for the whales. Is it lucrative to publish casual game, or is it easier or more revenue driven to publish RPG games in Southeast Asia?
In Philippine situation, the RPG dominates the game market in Philippines right now.
Okay.
But there's another one we need to consider is in-app purchase pricing.
Okay.
Because the Filipino economy is not that high like other Southeast Asia market.
Yeah.
So we need to adjust and lower down to make an ideal pricing for the Philippine market.
Okay, all right. So as we end the panel, I'll just probably a bit 20-second pitch by each of you, what you have to offer here out to the audience and why they should come and talk to you later off the stage. Martin, probably you could start.
I don't have much knowledge about the casual game, but you want to talk about hardcore game in Vietnamese market, you can talk to me. Yes.
Justin.
So as I mentioned earlier, the Philippine game industry is booming up these days. So I think this is perfect time to penetrate into the Southeast Asian market. So whenever you have any question about Philippine market or other Southeast Asia market, just contact us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, if you're interested in launching a game in Southeast Asia and you'd like to get help with alternative payments, make one API connection, one contract, work with a team who can support entirely in Mandarin across the region, we are happy to help.
Yeah. Jasni, tax incentive.
So Southeast Asia is poised for growth. I think there's a lot of documentation to support that, whether it's through App Annie, New Zoo, any market research. GMGC has a great white paper that they have that talks about Southeast Asia as a market. So do consider Southeast Asia the region. Do consider Malaysia, of course. We have special packages, but don't forget that there are other countries in there that would really benefit from the work that you do. There are challenges in place. It's not an ideal situation to come into. Like it won't be a smooth sail, but there are mechanisms to solve that. And these gentlemen here have ways and means of helping you out in coming to the region.
Okay, with that, I would like to end the session. Thank you guys for coming and giving your insights about Southeast Asia. The sky is really the limit now after hearing all your comments. And thank you for having us here, GMGC.